What is good? Osiris here, stuck in the middle. Every day, 9 a.m., I'll have an upload. Thank you for joining today, right now at 6 p.m. You might have heard by now, Hunter Biden has dropped the N word several times in various occasions. In one instance, Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, our president's son, said to his lawyer, "I only love you because you're black," followed by "true that N bomb" in a conversation about unconditional love. Another response, for example, Hunter Biden says, "Oh my God, N, did you just a fictional character from the imagination of Collective Frightened?" The report also includes a screenshot of a meme stored on the laptop from 2017 that shows former President Barack Obama with Biden's father, who was obviously his vice president, hugging with a text that makes it appear as if the elder Biden is saying, "You might end Barack." On Tuesday, the hashtag racist Hunter was trending on Twitter. The reason why I bring this up is nothing's going to happen from this. Obviously nothing's going to happen from this. The Democrat Party rules. The only people who can speak on this are Black Americans, and the Democrat Party rules Black America. So whatever the Democrat establishment wants us to think, we will think. That's why we thought, for whatever reason, that Bill Clinton was the first black president. The Democratic establishment wanted us to think that. What I'm bringing this up for is I'm tired of the comments from Hunter Biden's father, our president, respectfully, President Biden, just recently talking again about how white supremacy is our biggest threat. And I support our president, whoever our president is, but we have to hold them accountable. I'm going to go through the problematic history and why, Mr. President, if you don't start focusing on things that matter, such as asset management firms buying up homes in our country, residential homes, at an alarming rate, if you don't focus on things like billionaires, those who have more money than most of us will ever accumulate in our lives, many times over, paying the least amount of taxes, if you don't have answers to those and you're not addressing those things and you're trying to scare me with the boogeyman of white supremacy, then I'm going to have to hold you accountable, respectfully, as a citizen. When you focus on those things that we need you to focus on, we'll be good. I won't look back at the past. I won't even look back at last week when you said crazy things. So let me go back through the timeline real quick, back from 1987 to now. Of course, this is not an exhaustive list. The list would be too long. Let's go back to 2006. While campaigning in New Hampshire, Joe Biden told a supporter, "You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent."
In Delaware, the largest growth in population is Indian Americans moving from India. You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. I'm not joking.
In 1987, Joe Biden lied about marching in the civil rights movement.
When I marched in the civil rights movement, I did not march with a 12-point program. I marched with tens of thousands of others to change attitudes, and we changed attitudes. I came out of the civil rights movement. I was one of those guys that sat in and marched and all that stuff. During the 60s, I was, in fact, very concerned about the civil rights movement. I was not an activist. I worked at an all-black swimming pool in the east side of Wilmington, Delaware. I was involved in what they were thinking, what they were feeling. I was involved, but I was not out marching. I was not down in Selma. I was not anywhere else.
Joe Biden has made all sorts of statements about his activism in the civil rights movement. Now, in the beginning of his career, he made similar statements that he's making today on the campaign trail, and then he got caught lying. And for a huge chunk of his political career, he stopped telling those lies. He says, "I've counted at least 31 different lies Biden has told about being an activist, organizer, sit-in demonstrator, boycott leader, voter registration volunteer, black church trainee, and more in the civil rights movement. But every single time I dig, I actually find more interviews, more lies, more fabrications, and more tales he told to voters, reporters, historians, and more.
In February 2020, Biden claimed he was arrested in South Africa while trying to see the anti-apartheid leader Nelson Mandela. His campaign later said it didn't happen after the U.S. ambassador who was with him on the trip said the arrest story wasn't true.
So Joe Biden has been basically lying about something that happened to him in South Africa. It didn't actually happen. His campaign has now admitted that. The debate moderators did not ask him about this at the debate last night, but finally his campaign has had to fess up. Here is what he's been saying, though.
I spent my whole life fighting for civil rights, voting rights, social justice, economic justice. And that's what I'll do when I'm your president. This day, 30 years ago, Nelson Mandela walked out of prison and entered into discussions about apartheid. I had the great honor of meeting him. I had the great honor of being arrested with our UN ambassador on the streets of Soweto trying to get to see him on Robbins Island.
Yikes.
In 2008, during his run for president, Biden apologized for referring to his then rival, Senator Barack Obama, as the first mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice looking guy.
I mean, you got the first sort of mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook, man.
Hey, Cori Bush, Jamel Hill, all you fake social justice warriors, look what I found. I think I might have found it. Help me out. Is this the white supremacy that you've been scaring me about?
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
What they value and look at their budget and what they're proposing. Romney wants to he said in the first 100 days, he's going to let the big banks once again write their own rules. Unchain Wall Street. They're going to put you all back in chains.
Scared about Wall Street putting us back in chains. The reference shouldn't have been done, but it's ironic. His cabinet is full of Wall Street people. Are we going to go back into chains, President Biden? In 2020, Joe Biden asked Errol Barnett in an interview, "Are you a junkie?"
Have you taken a cognitive test?
No, I haven't taken a test. Why the hell would I take a test? Come on, man. That's like saying before you got in this program, if you take a test where you're taking cocaine or not, what do you think, huh? Are you a junkie?
What do you say?
Joe Biden let us know this is not a long time ago. This is last year in 2020 while running for president. Joe Biden let us know what he thought of Black Americans, that we're not as diverse of a community like the Latino community.
And by the way, what you all know, but most people don't know, unlike the African American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes about different things.
Oh, yeah. And of course, Trump was the white supremacist. Joe Biden's basically saying that Black Americans are easy to control. You blanket them as all one thing. And if you're not in that thing, then you're not in the group. You ain't black. Literally said that. And you're easily controlled, at least to like 80 to 90%. Joe Biden, in 2 separate occasions, tried to outdo himself for the worst answer I have ever heard on reparations.
I want to come to you and talk to you about inequality in schools and race. In a conversation about how to deal with segregation in schools back in 1975, you told a reporter, "I don't feel responsible for the sins of my father and grandfather. I feel responsible for what the situation is today, for the sins of my own generation, and I'll be damned if I feel responsible to pay for what happened 300 years ago." You said that some 40 years ago. But as you stand here tonight, what responsibility do you think that Americans need to take to repair the legacy of slavery in our country?
Well, they have to deal with look, there is institutional segregation in this country. And from the time I got involved, I started dealing with that. Redlining, banks, making sure that we are in a position where, look, we talk about education. I propose that what we take is those very poor schools, the Title I schools, triple the amount of money we spend from $15 to $45 billion a year. Give every single teacher a raise to the equal raise of getting out the $60,000 level. Number two, make sure that we bring in to help the teachers deal with the problems that come from home. The problems that come from home, we have one school psychologist for every 1,500 kids in America.
All right, pause it for 1 second. So here, Biden goes, I mean, right? This is not some guy who it's the first debate he's ever been in. This is stunning that he doesn't have the ability to answer this question with any type of coherence.
It's almost as he's never even thought of it.
Vice President Biden, do you support reparations?
Look, let me, since I haven't spoken on this, got a chance. Number one, the reason we're the country we are is because of immigration. We've been able to cherry pick the best from every single continent. The people who come here have determination, resilience. They are ready to stand up and work like the devil. We have 24 out of every 100 children in our school today is Hispanic. The idea that we are going to walk away and not provide every opportunity for them is not only stupid and immoral, but it's bad for America. They are the future of America, and we should invest in them. Everybody will benefit from it, every single American, and you should get used to it. This is a nation of immigrants. That's who we are. That's why we're who we are. That's what makes us different, and we should invest in them.
Thank you, Mr. Biden. Senator Klobuchar, you had your hand up.
Now, combine that with the fact that despite the disrespect displayed towards Black America, we still voted him into office.
I'm not trying to make a pro-reparations speech here. I'm just saying, please give us something coherent that is on topic and doesn't make you sound like a whatever term you want to use. And we'll end with the classic on the 1994 crime bill.
We must take back the streets. It doesn't matter whether or not the person that is accosting your son or daughter or my son or daughter, my wife, your husband, my mother, your parents. It doesn't matter whether or not they were deprived as a youth. It doesn't matter or not whether or not they had no background that enabled them to become socialized into the fabric of society. It doesn't matter whether or not they're the victims of society. The end result is they're about to knock my mother on the head with a lead pipe, shoot my sister, beat up my wife, take on my sons. So I don't want to ask what made them do this. They must be taken off the street. And that is, unless we do something about that cadre of young people, tens of thousands of them, born out of wedlock, without parents, without supervision, without any structure, without any conscience developing, because they literally, I yield myself 3 more minutes, because they literally have not been socialized. They literally have not had an opportunity. We should focus on them now, not out of a liberal instinct for love, brother, and humanity, although I think that's a good instinct, but for simple, pragmatic reasons. If we don't, they will, or a portion of them will, become the predators 15 years from now. And Madam President, we have predators on our streets that society has, in fact, in part because of its neglect, created. Again, it does not mean because we created them that we somehow forgive them or do not take them out of society to protect my family and yours from them. They are beyond the pale, many of those people. Beyond the pale. And it's a sad commentary on society. We have no choice but to take them out of society. And the truth is, we don't very well know how to rehabilitate them at that point. That's the sad truth. You're looking at the fellow who was one of the primary architects of the Sentencing Commission. You know what the basic premise of the Sentencing Commission is? I know the presiding officer knows. It was the first time in 80 years we rejected the notion that the condition of sentencing must be related to how long it would take to rehabilitate. I'm the guy that said rehabilitation, when it occurs, we don't understand it and notice it. And even when we notice it and we know it occurs, we don't know why. So you cannot make rehabilitation a condition for release. That's why in our system, there's the federal system, you serve 85% of your time. I remember when it was going on, when I was making these arguments in the late 70s, they used to call it Biden's same time for the same crime provision. It's a shame, but we don't know how to rehabilitate. But there is a consensus, and I will cease. A, we must make the streets safer. I don't care why someone is a malfactor in society. I don't care why someone is antisocial. I don't care why they've become a sociopath. We have an obligation to cordon them off from the rest of society, try to help them, try to change their behavior. That's why we do in this bill. We have drug treatment and we have other treatments to try to deal with it. But they are in jail, away from my mother, your husband, our families. But we would be absolutely stupid as a society if we didn't recognize the condition that nurtured those folks still exist. And we must deal with that.
I'm all for cleaning up the streets. I don't want to live in an area where there's crime. I don't care what race it is. But the lack of compassion for the situation, the circumstances that create these crimes, notice that the energy wasn't there on the same level as it was to do the locking down of these things. Is that white supremacy, Joe? Is that the type of white supremacy that I should be scared of? Please comment on the video. Let me know if this trade-off is fair. Joe Biden, you drop, and the Democrat Party, drop this white supremacy nonsense. Of course it exists, but don't use it as a tool to scare me and to distract from other issues. You drop the issue, I drop the issue. You drop the issue, we drop the issue. Because we need to look forward and look forward at the important things going on in our country. If you can't and you want to talk about it, then let's talk about it. Take care.